All right, I'm going to continue on. My hope is between today and tomorrow we can finish this. And then Friday will just be, if you have not been doing it, it'll be a day you can start working on your electronic portfolios. Remember, they're due by the time you walk out of here a week from today. All right, and since I'm sure I'll forget to say it. I'll take your question in a second. Since I'm sure I'll forget to say it, I do hope you all have a nice summer, and I would take at least a week to do nothing, think nothing about this place. Wish I could do that. Yes, sir. I'll be happy to. At the break, let me know, or remind me, and I'll put one out. If anybody else needs one, let me know too. Now, I did go back yesterday, and I rebuilt this. And once I rebuilt it and brought it up, it worked. That's the way it's supposed to look. So they asked us to come in and click the Create New button and come in here, and for a title they wanted When Harry Met Sally, which came out before most of you were born anyway, if not all of you. 1/11, I think it was like 1977 or something like that. It's a comedy, and they wanted it to be $6.99. Okay, you click Create, boom. It's now in the database. I'm going to show it to you in a minute, but it's now been put into the database as a record. All right, so notice I can come in here and I can edit it, so I can go back. Let's just say I spelled comedy wrong or something, or let's say that, oh, we're having a sale, it's $5.99. All right, and you change it, notice it's changed to $5.99. You can click Details, and you get kind of a collapsed picture of how everything looks. And then finally you can click Delete. I'm not going to remove it, but as you can see, now we didn't add any code ourselves to do that. The code was added for us when we went in and we chose to create that movies controller with read, write, etc. actions. That's the code that got added for us. The other thing I want to show you regarding that, I'm going to just stop the run, is if I come back here, and you'll notice, hopefully you can see that okay. I think James is the one who asked me yesterday. All these things that start with ASPNET, virtually all of them are for that register and login thing. They were created for you. I'm just going to recommend, don't monkey with those. Don't open them up. Don't do anything with them, because those are system files. This one, though, notice under Movies. We now have under Movies, all right, there's our movies, and if I right mouse click on there, you've seen this before, open table definition. Again, you've seen this. We did this before in the examples we worked on earlier. It'll fill in. It's just taking a minute to get all set up. There we go. So there's the table. It created a table named Movies. ID is the primary key. All right. It's an identity field, which is not null. Title, all right, this is going to have to change. Just so you know, if you look up on the screen, please. Right now, notice that title and genre say max, and I think max is 65,536 characters, which is ridiculous. So later, what we'll end up doing is we'll modify it in our code, and then we'll run a couple commands, and it'll change these values in here and in here. All right. You'll notice that the ID and the release date are and the price, none of those can be null. Did you hear me? The reason that that's important is if you try to enter a blank record right now, even though we've put in no validation, there will be some system validation that's put in for that. The other thing too, and I think you know this, but I'm not sure, so I'm just going to mention it. If you look up on the screen here, this says price decimal 18. That's a ridiculous amount. But what that means is 18 total digits 2 digits after the decimal place. So the biggest number this can possibly be is 999,999,999,999.99. We could change that. Let's say that, well, we're never going to have anything more than $1,000 or whatever. We could change that number. You don't want to change it in here, though. Not like this. All right. The other thing, too, is if you look on the screen, I've mentioned this before. I do want to say it again, so I'm going to close this. But I want to right mouse click on it, and I want to choose Show Table Data. Again, I realize it's not that easy for you to see this, but if you do look up here, what you'll notice is we've got 1 for the ID, When Harry Met Sally for the title, 1/11/1997. What did I put in there? 9? Yeah. For the release date, comedy, and $5.99. Now, although it is possible, and again, I don't care if you look at me or not, but please listen to this. When you are working like this on a database-driven website, it is actually legal. I could come in right here and add more movies. And if I added more movies right here, if I did add more movies right here, if I went back to my program, they'd actually be in there. That's not recommended that you do that. All right, either you use the database package itself to add your movies, or with what we're doing, you add the movies using your forms. And when you think about it, if you're creating this for an end user, let's even say it's somebody who works at, let's suppose this is a video store. I know they're dying off, I get that. But let's say there is a video store, and you're creating this for the end user. They're not going to want to go and type it in like this. Not when you can give them the opportunity to type it in. I guess I closed it, but you saw it where you're putting it into a form. That's what you're going to want to do. All right. Now, if you did not like my explanation, that's fine. But when you look in here, it said build the application. So we did all that stuff. Okay, we came in here. We added the new controller. All right. Again, I said this to you before. Please look up on the screen. The most important part was that we chose MVC controller with views using Entity Framework. That gave us automatically the ability to do our inserts, updates, deletes, etc. That's what did it, was choosing that. All right, so we added it. You probably have heard this either from me or someone else, but it says there Visual Studio automatically created CRUD. That's what these are known as our CRUD applications. Create, read, update, delete. All right, and that's what we're going to end up creating 2 of those come fall. All right. So it says run the application. You already saw this on mine. Then we were able to go in there and click on the button that said create new, which is a hyperlink. Went in there and did that. I'm surprised I remembered all that stuff. And put it in. We click create. You saw then that it was in there. They say create a couple more movie entries. I'm not going to do that now, but we could. It wouldn't be any kind of problem. All right, then it says open the movies controller and examine the generated index method. I mentioned this to you before, yesterday. The key thing is this line right here that says to list. All right, this will actually list everything. Once we get into where we start to do that, then you're going to learn how to do pagination. You say, I don't know what pagination is? Of course you do. We only want a certain number of records to show per page. And then when we get done, you already saw this. We did it in the example last week where you've got this, and you've got this, and this, and this kind of thing. Where you can jump to a last record, a first record, a previous record, and the next record. You don't have to use those. You can use numbers instead and different things. We'll look at all that stuff next semester. That's not really important right now, at least. All right. So it says here on the bottom of page 48, a request to the movies controller returns all the entries in the movies table and then passes them to the index. It says the following line from the movies controller class instantiates a movie database context. That's the thing we talked about earlier. Earlier we created that, but now we're creating an instance of it. You know what this is because you've done work creating classes. We're creating an instance of the movie DB context class that typically by default you just call DB. You don't have to, but most people do. All right. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm not going to run it right now, but it says right here, if the ID is null, what does that mean? Well, actually I will run it again because I did want to show you something on this. Notice now, okay, I came in here, I'm going to run it again from index. So you've already seen this, nothing new here, okay? Does this make sense to you? Please look up on the screen. If I go in here and I change the word index, if I change it to edit, look what happens. It doesn't like it. Right now it's not set up for it, but I can come here and I can say edit. So why does that work? And why did it not work when we did this? All right. When we just put edit in there by itself, we get a bad request. The system is saying to us, edit what? So we have to give it a number here. So if we say edit -1, it now works. The reason I'm showing you that is when we got the error message, all right, when we just put an edit, we got this bad request. That is this. Does that make sense? Okay, we didn't give it the information it needed. On the other hand, look at this. This says if it's null, return not found. Well, I think you'd all agree with me if you look up on the screen here. I believe everybody would agree there's only one record in here right now. But I'm going to tell it to try to edit record 44, which doesn't exist. So I hit enter. Notice I get a different message. It doesn't say bad request. It says not found. All right? That right there is coming from this. It's an HTTP not found. We could do the same kind of thing with a delete. All right, I could tell it to delete and leave something off and I'd get an error message. I could tell it to delete a non-existent record and I'd get a different error message. And that's what they're saying in here. And again, if the movie is found, as it says, it passes it back. And it lets you see the stuff that's in there. Now, this stuff in this file, I already told you this yesterday, but I'm going to keep saying it. All right? You may be sick of hearing it already. You're going to hear it hundreds of times more. This, a view file, is a .cs HTML file. The CS for C#, the HTML for hypertext markup language. In other words, it's an HTML file where it is allowed to have in there Razor code, which is C# code. What Razor code? Well, look at what we have. Anything that starts with an @ first thing it does in here is it lets us know the model we're working with. Then it lets us know the title. All right? When you look in here, then this is just everything that's here up till that point. That's just straight HTML. All right? This is just a comment. That's why it's green. But the other Razor code is right here. So notice edit, new, etc. with those action links and a back to list. Why am I even telling you that? Because when we go back here and we put in something valid, all right, that back to list, etc., that's all the code that got built for us automatically. All right. So again, they explain this in much more detail than I just did. They don't tell you to change this, but what they do is they say, it says here, when you created the movie controller, Visual Studio automatically included the model statement, and then they tell you what it does. It says, for example, in the index.cs HTML template, how it's going to go all the way through and show you everything. All right. There's also the Intellisense is built in here. So if you look up on the screen here, if I say, for example, item dot, it's going to have genre, release date, title, price, etc. All right. It'll have that built into it. Okay. And it says here, working with SQL Server Local DB. All right. This is all the stuff I already showed you. It shows you here that this movies.mdf file was created, and you may or may not remember this from yesterday, but I went back and I clicked the button up here that said show all files. Then I clicked the button here that said refresh, and boom, lo and behold, under app data. So let's try it again. So show all files, refresh. All right. Well, I don't know why it's there. It was there yesterday, but that file should be there. It's over here now. You saw that the file, basically, for lack of better words, the database was built with a single table in it. I'm not going to run through this because we did all this stuff already. You went through here, you saw the fields. I showed you the table data. You saw it. We looked at the table definition. So again, you saw that. All right. It's the same stuff that we've done before. Now, this is kind of important. On the bottom here of page 57, the author says when you're finished, close the connection to the database, because it says if you don't close it, the next time you run the project, you might get an error. What does that mean? If you look on the screen here, I'm going to go to my database, which is right there. I'm going to right mouse click on it, and I'm going to choose close connection. All right? Boom. Nothing magical happened when I did that, except that, as it said, it closed the connection. All right, and they show you how to do that. All right. Now it says you now have a database and pages to display, edit, and update data. So in the next tutorial, they're going to talk about how you can add searching to this. So what they keep doing every time here is adding more and more onto this project. All right. And again, I will give you a copy of all this when we get done. All right. Is it going to work and work really well on your machine if I give you the copy? It might, but since it's got a database in it, it might or it might not. All right. So chapter 7, which starts on page 59, is examining the edit methods and the edit view. You already know this. Edit means you're going to conceivably change the database. You could either change the structure, also known as the schema, or you could change the data. And you already know this because we went over this back when we were talking MySQL, that you change the schema using either create, alter, or drop, which are known as data manipulation language or DML commands, and you change the data by using either select, update, insert, or delete. All right, and those are DML or data manipulation language commands. All right, so it says in this section we're going to examine the generated edit methods. All right, so the first thing they're going to want us to do, please look up on the screen here, is to add that line of code. All right, it's going to be much easier for me to just show you this. What we can do with these fields, any of these fields, is we can add what we need. What this is going to do, right now, the name of this field when you run this is release date with one word. We're going to change it so its name is release space date. We're going to let the system know it's a date type. All right? We're going to tell it the format that we want it to be in. Okay? So we're going to set all this stuff up. Now what I'm going to do, again, if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to leave this line out. They tell us to put that line in. I'm not going to. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab all this code here in yellow. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. And again, I want to open the models movie.cs file. All right, so in models, I want to open up the movies.cs file. All right, and what I'm going to be changing here is the release date. You don't have to do this, but I like to do this. I like to have a blank space between each one of my fields. You don't have to do that. Okay, but when I start adding validation, which is what data annotations are, it helps to see what goes with what. All right, so there's the first one. There's the second one. There's the third one. And there's the name of my field. I think everybody, you're all smart enough. You see I got a lot of red squigglies? It's because I didn't add that using statement that I was told to add before. All right? So if I'd added that beforehand, I wouldn't get an error. But I'll let the system add it for me. Notice what's in here right now. 5 lines. Using system.collections.generic, using system.data.entity, using system.link, using system.web. All right? I'm going to put my mouse over any one of these, click the little light bulb that comes up, and say, hey, add that using statement. It adds using system.componentModel.data annotations, and lo and behold, all my errors went away. So you can do it either way. That's what I believe the author is trying to show you. You can manually go in and add that line, or you can start adding your annotations and then have the system add it for you. All right. They mentioned in here, there's going to be some stuff I'm not going to go through. If I put up today's date, would you all agree if I put up today's date, I could do it like this? I could do it like this. I could leave off the beginning 0 and just put 5-1. Would everybody agree with that, though? Yes? All right. Just so you know, that's the universal way of putting in a date, is to use periods. I have never seen anybody in America, other than possibly a programmer, do it that way. All right. But what they're saying in the book here is if you want to, so if I knew I was creating this for a video store in France, let's say, and in France they do their dates differently, all right, I could change it. And they show you in here how you can make it specific to whatever country you're in. All right. All right, next it says run the application again, browse to the movie's controller, and hold your pointer over the edit link. I'm going to do that. I don't know if we still have our copy up. There it is. All right, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to go to movies, not to movies edit, to movies, right there. All right, please look up on the screen here. I'm going to take the cursor, and I'm going to put it over edit. And I know it's hard for you to see, but it's what's down here. It says localhost followed by the port number /movie/edit/1. It's smart enough to know that if I click edit for this, to bring up the first one that's in there and actually edit that one. If I had additional ones, it would change to 2, 3, 4, etc. And that's what they mention in here, all right? And they go into a lot of depth and breadth of coverage to explain what's happening in here, all right? I'm not going to do that. It says you can also pass them in a query string. Do you care? You don't have to care, all right? Okay. It says, open the movie's controller. The 2 edit methods are shown below. If you look up on the screen, all right, notice this says get. We've already talked about this. I'm saying it again. When you use the word get, like that get, What that means is you're not changing the data. You're displaying the data. That's it. All right, we already went over this. I showed you the bad request. I showed you the not found. So I showed you both the error messages. All right. The other one, in addition to a get, is a post. That's when you are changing the data. So this is different. What this is going to do in here, first of all, notice they have this. I'm not going to go over that, but they've got validate anti-forgery token. They've got built-in checks to try to make it hard for somebody to go in and corrupt your data. All right? You know, I've said this before. I may have said it to your class. I don't know if I have or not. Okay? But if something, you know, if I was on my way home tonight and I got hit by a semi and I was killed, all right, you probably wouldn't have class tomorrow. But you'd probably have class on Friday. All right? In the mainstream of things, I'm not that important. Okay? But the data regarding this class is what's important. Okay? When you graduate from here, no employer is going to, you know, if you got a job someplace, probably they're not going to say, hey, Luke, I want to see more examples of the work you did when you were at Blackhawk. But they may have to go back for whatever reason and look at his grades. All right, so what I'm saying is what's important is the data. You don't want to allow your data to become corrupted. One way that you can try to keep that from happening is to use things like anti-forgery tokens. They do explain a little bit what it is in here. All right. Now, what it does here, if you look on the screen, this stuff in blue, I want to, not that stuff, this stuff, I want to explain quickly to you what's going on in this statement. All right? So if I go into edit and I make any kind of changes, I don't care what they are. So I go into edit and I've got that movie that comes up. And it's got title, When Harry Met Sally. Release date, 1/11/1977. All right? And then it has genre, comedy. And then after that, it says price, $5.99. If I go in and change any of them, so I bring up edit and make any changes, this is the code that runs. The first thing it does is it says if model state dot is valid. What that does is it checks each one of the fields to make sure what I put in there is valid. All right, what does that mean? That means it makes sure that any field that we said could not be null. Those two fields, or three fields, were ID, which we don't touch, but also release date and price. So if I leave them blank, I'm going to get an error. If I take the price field, which we said is a numeric, and I put something non-numeric in there, I'm going to get an error. If we use the release date and we put a non-date in there, we're going to get an error. So I don't know if it's still running or not. Okay, I'm going to edit this and purposely, in fact, I'll do this even better than that. I'm going to go back to my list and I'm going to put in another movie. All right, look on the screen, please. I'm going to leave it all blank on purpose. All right. I got two errors. What you can tell from this is, first, I don't need to put in a title if I don't want to. All right. Second, I better put in a date value here. Third, genre doesn't matter. Fourth, I need a price. So let's come in here. Somebody help me. What's the new Avengers movie called? Is that Endgame?
Endgame.
All right. Release date, I don't know what last Friday was, but we'll just say 4/26. Okay? And I'm going to just leave it like that, which I know is wrong. Genre, action, and price, I'm going to put hello. So I'm purposely introducing errors. I click create. All right. What's it doing? Well, you can see the price must be a number. I'm surprised the date didn't give me an error. All right. But what if I come in here and try doing this? 4/44/19 Notice? Must be a date. So it's smart enough to realize there is no month with 44 days in it. All right. Now, if I do put in here 4/26 and I put in there the year 4000, I don't get an error. The system has no way of knowing. It's just saying, is that a valid date? Not does it make sense, but is it a valid date? So we'll put in here 2019 action, and let's change the price. Let's say $19.99. We click create. Everything looks, at least that was put in here, looks like it's valid, and boom, we now have a second record. All right. So I wanted to show you in here what happens, and they explain it in more depth and breadth of coverage. They talk about what the validate anti-forgery token is. You can click on the hyperlink and find an article on it, etc. All right. Says run the application and navigate to the movie's URL, click an edit link, all right, and they're showing you this is what's in there. All right, so it says the HTML is shown below. Okay, now one thing is when you click that, so let's do that. Let's go back to here. All right, I'm going to click the edit link. You've already seen this. I'm going to right mouse click and choose view page source. And you might say, it looks a lot different. No, it really doesn't. The point is when you look up here and you look where it says form action and all this other stuff, that stuff that we put in as CSHTML, that razor code cannot be shown in HTML. That razor code has to be converted into HTML that would show in your browser. Straight razor code will not by default show in the browser. All right? And that's what the author is talking about here. All right. And you can look at the post version, you can look at the get version, etc. Now, again, if you would please, look up on the screen here. It says the ASP.NET MVC model binder takes the posted form value and creates a movie object. This thing is going to become very important next semester. The ASP.NET MVC model binder. This might be one of those when you want to right mouse click on here or click on it or do whatever, from the actual article itself. But actually take a quick look at it. All right. We're going to look at validation in even more detail later on. There's a whole lesson on it near the end. But you already saw this. I already did this. You saw those error messages. All right. The next thing they do is they have you globalize this. You may or may not know what that means. But if you globalize an application, the idea is that it can be used in any country. That's the idea behind globalizing. All right. I'm not going to run through this, but they have you go through NuGet, which we've already done, and they have you choose a different package in here, that being the jQuery validator globalize. I mean, I can do it. So we can come in here. Again, I can right mouse click on the name of my project, go to Manage NuGet Packages, go over to where it says Browse, and type in here jQuery validate. All right? And it'll find it. It's in here someplace. All right? Notice there's a validate China, for example. Okay? There's a bunch of stuff that's already in here. It says we want the jQuery.validation.globalize is what it looks like. So jQuery.validation.globalize. I hit enter. There it is. So to add it, all I do is click on it and choose install. Boom. It's now available to my project. All right. And that's what they talk about right here. Then they have you go through and actually make some changes. I'm not going to do that. All right. Basically, by default, we know what, the way that it's going to be. It's going to be set up for an American date, for example. All right. All right, it's a little early. That was enough to throw at you quickly. Before we go on to the next lesson, it's 8:48, it looks like. At 8:48 or 8:43, I can't even read it. All right, it's 43. Let's come back at 9 o'clock, please.